Hi everyone, it's Dan Hodges with you, naturalist for the Johnny Appleseed Park District. So glad you could join me. I'm really excited to continue virtual day camp birds this week. We learned a little bit about what makes a bird, how to get out and look for them, some of their adaptations. We saw some birds nest. I thought we'd talk about bird identification for just a little bit today. And I brought a guest. This is my friend. Here, come here. Can you look at me? There we go. Look at how cute he is. This is Arnie. Arnie is not happy to be here, but I think that we're going to get through it together. Arnie is I don't know. Let's think about it. So we've got a couple of things, and I like using this particular bird as a starting point because he's all gray. And a lot of people are looking for color, and that's a good thing, an important clue, but color is not always the best place to start. With this guy, perhaps the best place to start picking clues up for the identification of a bird. It's kind of like you're a detective trying to put pieces of the puzzle together and figure out the identification of a bird that you're seeing. So one of those first clues is where you are. And that might be pretty obvious, but we don't always think about that when we type that gray bird into Google. I looked through pages and pages and couldn't find this guy at all partly because I was looking at birds from other parts of the world. Location is important. Another one is season. What time of year is it? Midsummer now, but in the wintertime you wouldn't see this type of gray bird in your backyard. So some of this stuff is so easy, even regular Dan could figure it out. But they're important steps to consider. So location, time of year, the habitat that we're into. A deep forest is going to have a different suite of birds than the shoreline along Lake Erie, or a prairie somewhere, or even in our residential areas. So where you are sort of habitat-wise is also important. And then we get to size and shape. So this bird right here, I can tell you his wingspan's about 15 inches, maybe a little bit less, but that's not going to mean anything when he's 30 yards away and you're looking at him through a pair of binoculars. He doesn't have a ruler. So usually when we talk about size for birds, we're talking about relative size. The kind of starting point is usually American robin. You know the American robin. You've seen it in your yard since you were a kid. We all love the American robin, and that's kind of the middle range bird. This guy is just a little bit smaller than an American robin. And that's literally how people describe birds. A little even smaller could be a sparrow, larger could be a crow, but we're using relative size. And shape too, that's kind of important when you're looking at a bird. Is he kind of short and stocky, or is he long and lean or round? This guy's got a fairly short tail and kind of a long bill, long face, with a rather stocky body, shortish wings that aren't long and tapered and thin. So the size and the shape is another good clue. And then we get to color. So obviously we've got gray here, but it's not just color, it's color pattern. So we've put in your camp kits, by the way, a little sort of map of a bird. This is the field marks, sort of the topography, what we're looking at when we're talking about a bird. For example, a bird with wing bars, noting those is going to be important. Or what color the vent is, or what's happening around the eye. All of these things some of these differences between different species of birds can be really subtle. And if you're picking up just little things like a mallard stripe or a wing bar, you could help identify your bird a lot easier. So color and field marks is very important. And then behavior too. Whether it's walking on the ground or skulking in the bushes, or whether it's coming to your feeder or staying at the treetops, how it behaves with other birds too. So behavior can really encompass a lot of different things about the bird. And then the last one of the harder ones to learn, but perhaps one of the more enjoyable clues to identify a bird is its song. Everybody loves listening to a bird sing, but listen to that robin sing the next time you're outside and you hear that beautiful, that chirly-o, sound. Different types of birds have different types of song, and that's going to help you identify what type of bird it is. Even different types of calls, but that gets a little more complicated. So let's look at this guy. He was found here in Ohio. in a residence in a rural area, so kind of out in the country. It's here in midsummer. Size and shape, I said he's a little smaller than a robin. He's fairly stocky. The wings aren't super long and tapered, fairly short tail, kind of a narrow face here. The bill, I think he's a little like a pair of needle-nose pliers. Not a big pair of pliers, and certainly not tweezers, but kind of a long, I don't want to say slender, but a long, slender bill. The color is all gray, obviously. He does have a few field marks, not much. Mainly, and it's hard to tell on this bird, I don't know if you can see it very well, but mainly between the eyes, he kind of has a dark patch there, kind of like a face mask almost. So he's got this little dark between the eyes, but other than that, there's not a lot of field marks to go off of this bird. He will walk in the grass as opposed to hop or skulk in the bushes. He's getting a little bit stressed. So I'm going to put him in another grip here, just to keep him from flapping his wings around so much. There we go. All right, buddy, calm down. There we go. So behavior is important too. You're going to find him walking in the grass. They often hang out in flocks. I didn't particularly see this bird doing those things because I found it as a juvenile. In fact, it's still a juvenile. And that's another reason why song isn't quite as important here either. He's not singing yet. This squawking and calling can be a little bit confusing. But this guy I found as a juvenile, and that's one of the reasons why he's hard to identify. I've had questions about this bird because he's going to come out of the nest in early June. And then by the fall, he's going to be molting into adult plumage anyway. So we're only seeing a very narrow period of time when this bird looks this way. And that's why we get questions about what kind of bird is this guy. He likes to bite a lot. But this is, if you haven't guessed it already, this is a European starling. And that's really the reason why I have him in here. You're not allowed to take native birds inside or mess with any part of the nest or anything like that without a specific permit. But European starlings aren't protected under those laws because they're an invasive species from overseas. So that's why he's so patiently giving us this demonstration. So identifying birds is about picking up clues and putting together sort of a puzzle as to what you're looking at in the field. So grab a pair of binoculars, grab your field guide, look at the bird before you look at the field guide, by the way, and get outside and see if you can identify some birds in your backyard. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget to get outside. You're doing great. There we go. You okay? So he'll